Okay. So today we shall begin with a new chapter, that is new chapter also under the CNS. Okay. So the name of the chapter is antipsychotic drugs, or also these are popularly known as neuroleptics or neuroleptic drugs. Alright. So in the last few lectures in under anti-anxiety chapter, we have also covered the types of psychiatric disorders. In short, we have seen what are the different types of psychiatric disorders, under which we have seen under psychosis. This is one of the type of condition called as the schizophrenia. Okay, so basically these antipsychotic drugs are used for the treatment of psychosis like condition. Okay, mainly they are used for the treatment of schizophrenia, that is split mind or split personality. Okay, now coming to the outline of the chapter, we are going to cover the definition of antipsychotic drugs, the classification of the drugs which are used as antipsychotics or neuroleptics. Then in detail we are going to cover the pharmacology of chlorpromazine as a prototype drug. Okay, chlorpromazine, the accepted short form is CPZ. It is known as CPZ. Okay, then after this we are going to cover the distinctive features of the individual drugs. Okay, that is other drugs we are going to just discuss in brief some of the special properties. Rest remain the same as that of chlorpromazine. Okay. After that we are going to cover the interactions, drug interactions. What will happen if these antipsychotic drugs are given along with some other treatment. Then comes the adverse effects. These are very important. There are quite many adverse effects and these are also important from exam point of view. Okay, and then lastly we are going to see what are the different uses. Okay, that is apart from being used in the schizophrenia. There are some other uses also. So we are going to cover that in brief. So this is the outline of the chapter. Coming to the definition of antipsychotic drugs. So these antipsychotic drugs are the drugs which are having salutary therapeutic effect in psychosis. Okay, so salutary meaning they have the beneficial effect. Okay, so they have beneficial effect as therapeutic agent in the treatment of psychosis, which is the first type we have seen. There are three main types of psychiatric disorders: psychosis, affective disorders, okay, and the neurosis. Okay, so these typically these neuroleptics or antipsychotics are basically effective in these conditions, psychosis. Okay. Now coming to the classification of the drugs which are used. The first one and the important class under this is the phenothiazines. Okay, now phenothiazines, again there are subtypes depending upon in the structure, depending upon what side chain is attached, it is divided into again three subtypes. First one is aliphatic side chain. Okay, so depending what is the structure of that side chain which is attached. Okay, so here actually in pharmacology we are not interested into what the structure is basically, but the classification is dependent upon the side chain which is attached. So the first subclass of phenothiazines is aliphatic side chain. Under this the examples are chlorpromazine, which we are going to discuss in detail. The second one is triflupromazine. Then comes the second subclass, that is having piperidine side chain. Example is thioridazine. And the third one is piperazine side chain. Okay, so here there are again two examples. Trifluoperazine is the example, and one more is fluphenazine. Okay, so if you can see, there is this term is common, right, for all, azine. Okay, so this is a common term. Okay, from which you can identify these particular drugs, phenothiazines. So the drugs are also named accordingly, according to its class. Okay, and they are subclassified based on the structure, what side chain is attached to them. And the second class is butyrophenones. Butyrophenones has three examples: haloperidol, which is quite popular, trifluperidol, and penfluridol. Okay, so if you can see here again there is similarity in these words. Okay, so specific class has some specific characteristic in its name, so that it becomes easier also. You can remember the names of drugs accordingly. And the third class is thioxanthins. There is only one example over here. Flupenthizole is the example. And the fourth class is other heterocyclics. Examples are pimozid and loxep. And there is a last class which is introduced recently, and these drugs are classified as atypical antipsychotics. Okay, this we have, I think, come across under the anti-manic drugs. Okay, so atypical antipsychotics. So the ones which we have seen so far, those are known as typical antipsychotics. Okay, we will come to know why these are classified separately, because their mechanism is slightly different from the usual antipsychotic drugs which were discovered. Okay, so that's why these class of drug is subclassified as separate one, that is atypical antipsychotics. They behave, or they have a mechanism slightly different from that of the usual antipsychotic drugs. That's why they are classified here separately. There are several examples, over 8 examples. Clozapine was the first one which was discovered. Then comes the risperidone, olanzapine, quetiapine, aripiprazole, ziprasidone, amisulpiride and zotapine. So here you can see that the names are quite very indifferent to each other. There is no much similarity in between over here. Okay. Then next, coming to the pharmacology of the chlorpromazine or CPZ as a prototype. The first part which we are going to cover is the pharmacological actions of chlorpromazine. The first action which we are going to cover is on the CNS. That's what is the more important for us. Okay, because here the site will be, or the site of action will be CNS, because here in psychotic conditions mainly there is something going wrong with your brain. Okay, so that's very important. Now again, under this, it is again dependent upon whether you give the drug to normal individuals or whether you give it to a psychotic patient. Now supposing if you give these drugs to a normal individual, they will show some kind of different effects, and if you give it in psychotic patients, it will produce slightly different kind of actions in the CNS of these individuals. So both are discussed over here. So what will happen when you give these drugs in normal individuals, and what kind of effects are shown in the psychotic patients. Now coming to first the effects on the CNS of normal individuals. What effects these antipsychotic drugs will show in the CNS of normal individuals. Okay, so we are discussing in terms of CPZ over here. Okay, so CPZ, it produces indifference to the surrounding. Okay, so the person will have nothing to do with the surroundings, what is going on in the surrounding. There will be paucity of thought, that is slowing of the thought. Okay, your thinking power will slow down, or it will get affected severely over here. Then comes your psychomotor slowing, your psychomotor functions which you are carrying out in your day-to-day life, those will get slowed down. Okay, then the emotional quietening will be produced. Okay, that is the emotion, the kind of emotions which you show. Like, it depends upon your surroundings, right? Okay, so if there is something good happening, you will definitely come out with some sort of very good emotional outcomes. If something bad is happening, you will show certain emotional outcomes, right? But here, because of that indifference produced to the surrounding, here there will be emotional quietening. You may not show any kind of emotional changes or emotions towards normally how the person reacts to a particular situation. So such kind of emotional quietening may be seen in this normal individuals. There will be reduction in the initiative. That is, a person may not take initiative into day-to-day activities also. Okay, so the person may sit quiet, will not be interested in doing anything or taking initiative in certain activities. Then there will be tendency to go off to sleep. The person may tend to go to sleep. It will be a normal arousable sleep. There the person, if you just shake that particular person, the person will be easily arousable. Okay, so it's not a deep sleep, but a person will have more tendency to go to sleep. Then the spontaneous movements are also minimized in these particular individuals. So all these effects which are produced, these are collectively referred to as neuroleptic syndrome. Okay, so a neuroleptic syndrome is precipitated when these drugs are given to the normal individuals. Okay. Now these normally these antipsychotics, typical antipsychotics we are talking about. Okay, atypical antipsychotics have a different mechanism of action. They don't follow the same mechanism as that of your typical antipsychotics, other antipsychotics. Okay, so these exert the effects. Okay, like CPZ like effect. We are talking about CPZ over here. Okay, so all these typical antipsychotics, they exert CPZ like action. That is, they will have the potent dopamine D2 receptor blocking property. So these drugs, okay, typical antipsychotics, they act by blocking the dopaminergic receptors. Okay, so within that again there are several types, subtypes of dopaminergic receptor, D1, D2, D3, D4 and all. Okay, so here these CPZ or the typical ACE antipsychotics, these basically act by blocking the D2 subtype of dopamine receptor. Okay, so that's how they also exert the extrapyramidal motor side effect. Okay, extrapyramidal side. These are more typical side effects which are produced by these antipsychotics. Extrapyramidal side effect. This is discussed in detail under the adverse effect part. Okay, so mostly here, motor function is getting affected because of blocking of this D2 receptor. So certain motor side effects are produced. Okay, so similar conditions like what is seen in Parkinson's disease, like hypokinesia. There will be tendency to the person may not be able to walk properly. Okay, the movements are affected over there. Okay, tremors may be precipitated, gait, posture is getting affected. So such kind of similar type of extrapyramidal side effects will be produced by these agents. Okay, that is, we are talking about the typical antipsychotics, and these drugs are also known as neuroleptic drugs, which we have seen. And the effects which are produced in these normal individuals, if you ask these normal individuals what kind of effects are produced, they will describe it as neutral. Okay, like either they are not making any difference or some sort of unpleasant effects, they will call them as. Okay, then coming to the effects of these antipsychotics in the CNS of a psychotic patient. So what kind of effects will be produced? Okay, so here CPZ is reducing the irrational behavior. We have already seen what kind of effects will be seen under the psychiatric conditions when we had covered. Okay, so the irrational behavior is severely getting affected over here. Okay, thought is getting affected. So all those symptoms are subsided by these antipsychotics or CPZ. Okay, so irrational behavior, agitation in your thinking, in your mind, then aggressiveness. Okay, all the other symptoms may get controlled by this CPZ. Okay. Apart from that, the thought and behavior, okay, so which is generally disturbed, so that will get normalized. The anxiety which may be seen in that person, that is also relieved. So also the hyperactivity and the hallucination, this is a quite common side effect, a characteristic feature of the psychosis. Okay, so hyperactivity, hallucinations and delusions, this is another important component over there. False belief. Okay, so delusions, okay, or false belief, that can be effectively suppressed by the antipsychotics. Okay, then sedative effect is also produced promptly. That means after starting the treatment, this drugs will start precipitating a sedative effect. Okay, so drowsiness will be produced in those individuals. So initially when you start the treatment, sedative effect is produced, whereas as you continue the treatment over a period of time, weeks, it will take to develop the antipsychotic effect. Okay, so immediately sedative effect will be seen, but the antipsychotic effect will take a little bit time for it to develop. So there is a lag time. Immediately it will not show effectiveness as an antipsychotic. It will require a little bit time for it to show its effect. So also as you continue the treatment, tolerance will be developed to the sedative effect. The sedative effect which is produced immediately after you start the treatment. So once you continue this treatment, tolerance is developed to the sedative effect. That is what will happen as you continue the treatment, the sedative effect will subside. So the drugs will not show any sedative effect once you continue the treatment. In the later phase, it will not produce any sedation or drowsiness. But tolerance does not develop to its antipsychotic effect. Okay, so once you continue the treatment, sedative effect will wane off, it will go off. But antipsychotic effect which develops later on, that is not developing any tolerance. That is, it will be maintained. Alright, are you getting it? Okay, tolerance is developed only to the sedative effect, not to the antipsychotic effect. Okay, so these two effects, they indicate that both these actions are independent of each other. These sedative property in the antipsychotic effect which is produced by these drugs, these are not produced by the same mechanism. There are different mechanisms, there are different areas in your brain which are involved, which are responsible for these two type of action. Firstly, we have seen that sedative occurs very quickly. Antipsychotic action, it takes a little bit time for it to show it antipsychotic effect. Plus, tolerance develops to only the sedative effect but not to antipsychotic effect. So that shows that both these actions are not produced by same kind of mechanism. Okay, so both these actions are independent of each other. The next point, performance and intelligence of the person. These are not affected by the antipsychotic. But the vigilance is impairment. Vigilance is your tendency to be aware about some kind of adverse or unwanted conditions. Okay, so your ability to remain aware of something which is wrong. So that vigilance is mainly getting impaired over here. Okay, then as I have already told you earlier that extrapyramidal motor disturbances, these are seen in the therapeutic doses of these antipsychotic drugs also. Okay, but these are more prominent with high potency compounds. Okay, and these are least with these drugs, thioridazine and the atypical antipsychotics. So these drugs have less tendency to produce the extrapyramidal motor disturbances or extrapyramidal side effects as they are known as commonly. Okay, so the most potent drugs out of all the antipsychotic agents, generally typical antipsychotics produce these extrapyramidal side effects, whereas the atypical antipsychotics generally do not precipitate these extrapyramidal side effects. Then if you can see, the action on the sleep architecture is also not very much consistent. Okay, so they will not affect the sleep architecture which we have already studied, the stages of sleep. Okay, so they are not getting affected. Rather, the disturbed sleep pattern which is produced in a psychotic person, that is normalized. So generally sleep is getting affected over there in the psychotic person. So that will get normalized. Another action of this chlorpromazine is it lowers the seizure threshold. Okay, so by lowering the seizure threshold, there is high chances of precipitation of the epileptic seizures, okay, especially in the epileptic patients. So you should be careful while administering these drugs to an epileptic. If that person is untreated, then there are high chances of precipitation of the fits or epileptic attacks in that particular person. Whereas these drugs, that is piperazine side chain, okay, so these the third subclass under the phenothiazines. Okay, so chlorpromazine is the phenothiazine. So they have tendency to precipitate the seizures, especially in the epileptics. Whereas if you can see that piperazine side chain compounds, these have lower propensity of precipitation of the seizures. So these are quite safer in terms of this adverse precipitation of the seizures. Then one more effect is that temperature control is knocked off. That is generally what happens, your body temperature is adjusted depending upon the surroundings, right? Now supposing if the surrounding temperature is low, supposing if the surroundings are cold, if there is low temperature, then what will happen? Your body will start raising its temperature. Okay, so it adjusts accordingly. In cold environment, your body temperature will rise to keep your cells protected. But here, under the influence of antipsychotic drugs, what is happening? Temperature control is knocked off. Okay, especially this is seen at higher doses of these drugs. Okay, so what will happen? A condition called poikilothermia will be produced. That is, a person will become poikilothermic. That means the body temperature falls if the surroundings are cold. Normally what happens when the surroundings are cold, your body temperature generally rises. Okay, but in this condition what happens? Because the temperature control is knocked off, your body temperature fall. It starts decreasing when the surrounding temperatures are low. Okay, so it will try to adjust as same as surrounding, which normally does not happen. It happens only under the influence of these antipsychotic drugs in higher doses. Okay, then even in higher doses, the vital centers also may get affected. Usually they are not getting affected. Your medullary respiratory center or other vital center, vasomotor center is there. So all those vital centers are normally not getting affected, but yes, in higher doses or very high doses, it may affect the vital centers in your medulla also. Okay. Then coma, it is quite difficult to produce coma. Even in the overdoses, it will not result in coma in the particular person. Okay, then neuroleptics also have antiemetic action. Okay, because antiemetic, that is the vomiting will be subsided. Okay, because they have the action on the CTZ. The D2 receptor blocking property in the CTZ is responsible for its antiemetic action. Okay, so all the neuroleptics except this thioridazine, they have antiemetic action. Okay, then coming to the mechanism of action, this is again very important. Okay, so all the antipsychotics except clozapine, like atypical antipsychotic, that is, atypical antipsychotics do not produce this kind of effect. Okay, so all the antipsychotics except that last class, atypical antipsychotic, they have potent dopamine D2 receptor blocking action. Okay, so their mechanism of action is by blocking the dopamine receptor. Specifically, D2 subtype of dopamine receptor is blocked by these typical antipsychotics, Okay, so this is the major mechanism of action. Whereas if we can consider the phenothiazines and thioxanthines, apart from being blocking the D2 receptors, they can also block the D1, D3 and D4 subtype of dopamine receptor also. Whereas this is the important one. D2 receptor blockage is the major mechanism of action by which it produces the antipsychotic action. Now, in which areas of your brain basically these are blocked? These are basically blocked in the neurons which are supplying to your limbic system and in the mesocortical areas. So specifically the D2 receptor blocking tendencies in the dopaminergic system in the limbic system and mesocortical areas is actually responsible for the antipsychotic action. Okay, so now how this particular theory was strengthened, one theory was put forth, like dopamine theory of schizophrenia. Okay, so involvement of dopamine in schizophrenia, precipitation of psychosis like condition. Okay, so how it was further proven is that if you can see the drugs which can increase the dopamine activity, like amphetamines we have seen. Okay, seen under CNS stimulants we have seen amphetamines. Okay, they enhance the dopamine activity, right? Levodopa, which is used as an anti-Parkinsonian drug. Okay, levodopa is actually a precursor for dopamine. So once in the brain, it releases the dopamine and it shows the therapeutic effect in the Parkinson's disease. Bromocriptine, which is a dopaminergic agonist, which itself goes and bind to the dopamine receptors and stimulate it. So all these drugs which can enhance the dopamine activity, so it is seen that they can induce or exacerbate the schizophrenia. Okay, so they will induce, meaning they will produce these symptoms similar to schizophrenia. Psychotic like conditions will be precipitated by these drugs which promote the dopamine activity, or when they are given in the schizophrenic person, they will exacerbate that particular condition. So this has given rise to this dopamine theory of schizophrenia. So this strengthens that dopamine somewhere is involved in precipitation of this psychosis like condition, or schizophrenia basically is precipitated due to this overactivity of this dopaminergic system. Plus we have seen that drugs which produce antipsychotic action, these basically block the dopaminergic receptor. So this strengthens that somewhere dopamine is involved over here. Okay, so that's how these drugs have come into picture, the ones which abolish the dopaminergic action by blocking their receptors. Okay, now when these drugs are given over a period of time, what they will do? They will block the dopamine D2 receptor. So because of this prolonged blockage of dopamine receptor, so when you continue the treatment, they will continue to block the D2 receptors over a period of time. So what will happen? There will be some adaptive changes which will come into picture. Okay, like your body will try to adjust this particular condition. So what will happen? Because your drugs are blocking the D2 receptor over a period of time, what will happen is there will be a firing of dopamine neurons, and dopamine turnover will increase. So initially when these D2 receptors are kept blocked for a long period of time, what will happen? Your body will start producing more and more dopamine initially. Okay, so for a certain period of time, more and more dopamine will be generated, firing of the dopamine neurons will take, so more and more dopamine will be released. Okay, however, as you continue the treatment, okay, over a period of time, this particular initial increase in your dopamine turnover and dopamine release, that will subside. Okay, this may be with the reason why there is a lag time. Okay, initially it does not produce the antipsychotic effect. It takes a little bit time for it to show the antipsychotic effect. This could be the reason, because though the D2 receptors are blocked by your drugs, but initially what will take place? The dopamine neurons will be stimulated, dopamine synthesis and release will be increased. Okay, so this will take place for a short period of time, but as you continue the treatment, all these effects will be subsided. Okay, and the this blockage of D2 receptor will continue. Okay, especially in the basal ganglia. Okay, and this actually D2 receptor blockage in the basal ganglia is actually responsible for the Parkinson's like side effect over here. Okay, because under the Parkinson's disease we have seen anti-Parkinsonian drug, there what happens, there is diminished activity of your dopaminergic system, right? Okay, so these drugs act by blocking the D2 receptors. Okay, so what they will do? They will precipitate Parkinson's like condition. Okay, so both these class of drugs are precipitating each other's condition, because the pathophysiology is totally opposite. In Parkinson's disease, what is happening? Dopaminergic system is suppressed, whereas in case of psychosis like condition, there is overactivity of your dopamine. So both the conditions are opposite to each other. So the treatment, when you start, both the kind of treatment will start precipitating each other's condition. That is, anti-Parkinsonian drugs will start precipitating psychosis like condition, and antipsychotic drug will start precipitating Parkinson's like condition. Okay, because both the pathophysiology are exactly opposite to each other. So anti-Parkinson drug promote the dopaminergic system, or they enhance the dopaminergic system, whereas antipsychotic drugs, these are blocking the dopaminergic system. Okay, that's how they are precipitating each other's condition. Okay, whereas this dopamine turnover increasing tendency which takes place, the tolerance may develop to this particular action also, but not in the limbic areas. So that's how the antipsychotic effect is maintained over a period of time. Okay, tolerance does not develop to the antipsychotic activity. Okay, now this is a quite a very much promising model which was discussed, but this model fails to explain the antipsychotic activity of clozapine or the other atypical antipsychotics. Why? Because these atypical antipsychotics, they have only a very weak D2 blocking action. Okay, so they do not block the D2 receptors as much as the typical antipsychotic agents. Rather, they have a significant 5-H2 and alpha blocking action. That is, they block the serotonergic receptor more prominently, and the alpha one, that is the subtype of adrenergic receptors, are being blocked more significantly as compared to your D2 receptor. Okay, so that dopamine theory of schizophrenia actually fails in this condition. These, though they are not, or they are having weak D2 blocking action, still they have very good antipsychotic property, and they act through these other receptors. So you can see that different types of agents, they have different mechanism of it. So they may be affecting several neurotransmitters or neurotransmission, or they may be acting by blocking several neurotransmitter receptor. So this shows that psychosis does not only involve the dopaminergic system, but other neurotransmitter activity also plays an equal role over there. That's what is shown. So totally it is not only the dopaminergic system which is overactive, but of course the other neurotransmitters are also involved in the pathophysiology of the psychosis. Okay, so atypical antipsychotic leads to this particular conclusion. And as I've already told earlier, this is just a repetition, dopaminergic blockage in this basal ganglia. This is responsible for the extrapyramidal side effects, that is Parkinson's-like symptoms will be precipitated because D2 receptors are blocked in this basal ganglia, and also D2 receptor blockage in the CTZ is actually responsible for the antiemetic action. Okay, so vomiting can be subsided by these drugs, neuroleptics. Then this is to do with the action on the CNS. Coming to the action in the ANS, autonomic nervous system. Okay, so neuroleptics have varying degree of alpha adrenergic blockage. Okay, they can block the alpha adrenergic receptors. Okay, but the blockage is not same for all the agents. Okay, so here they have shown which drugs have more tendency to block the adrenergic receptor. Like if you can see that CPZ, chlorpromazine, triflupromazine and thioridazine, they have equal tendency to block the alpha receptors, and these are the highest tendency to block the alpha receptors. Next comes, so these have more tendency to block the adrenergic receptors as compared to clozapine. Clozapine has even more tendency to block the adrenergic receptor even as compared to flufenazine. Okay, even this one is producing more alpha blockage as compared to haloperidol. Haloperidol again is more than trifluperazine. Then Pimozid is the least one in blocking the alpha adrenergic receptor. So this shows that more potent compounds have less alpha blocking activity. This is the conclusion which can be drawn. Apart from that, neuroleptics also have anticholinergic property also, but this is weaker. Okay, they have weak anticholinergic property. Again, it is graded. Thioridazine have the greatest tendency to block the cholinergic receptor. Then comes the chlorpromazine, then triflupromazine, then comes the trifluperazine. Okay, and haloperidol is equally blocking this cholinergic receptors to the trifluperazine. Then, sorry. Apart from this, phenothiazines also have weak H1 antihistaminic property also. Okay, histamine receptor, the H1 subtype can be blocked by the neuroleptics, and anti-5-HT receptors, that is serotonergic receptor, also can be blocked. Sorry. Then next comes the local anesthetic effect. Now this chlorpromazine has a potent local anesthetic action. It shows equal local anesthetic action as much as procaine. That is, it is equally efficacious in producing the local anesthetic effect. That is, the sensations in a restricted area may be abolished, especially the pain. Okay, that's what we have seen. Local anesthetic produces. This basically local anesthetics, they stabilize the membrane. They have membrane stabilizing property. They prolong the inactivated state of sodium ion channel and all. That's what we have seen in the neurons. Okay, chlorpromazine also has very good local anesthetic property. Okay, it has same as that of procaine. Okay, but though it produces or it possesses local anesthetic action, still it is not used as a local anesthetic. That's because it is highly irritant in nature. Because we have seen most of the local anesthetics, they have to be injected, right? Injected superficially. So chlorpromazine, though it has a good local anesthetic property, but it is irritant in nature. That's why you cannot inject this chlorpromazine. Though it is having local anesthetic property, still it is not used as a local anesthetic because of its irritant action. Okay. Others do not have any strong activity like chlorpromazine. They only have weak membrane stabilizing action. Okay. This is the only drug which has local anesthetic property but cannot be used due to irritant action. Then comes the action in the CVS. Now this neuroleptics, they produce postural hypotension. Okay, now this postural hypotension is because of the both the central as well as peripheral action. Okay, so they basically affect the sympathetic system, or sympathetic tone or sympathetic outflow is suppressed or diminished, because of which hypotension is precipitated. That is lowering of the BP. And specifically, this is a postural hypotension which is seen initially. Okay, and it is more marked when the drug is administered by parenteral route. Okay, there are more chances of precipitation of this postural hypotension. Okay, generally more marked hypotension will be produced if the person is suffering from hypovolemia. If that is decrease in the blood fluid level, if it is low, then there are more chances of precipitation of this hypotension. However, tolerance develops to this action upon chronic use of the drugs. So when you continue the treatment, this action will wane off. That is, hypotension is shown only initially when you start the treatment. So you can start at lower doses and then maybe you can increase to avoid this. That this is not very much significant also. It is more markedly produced when they are administered parenterally or when the person is suffering from hypovolemia. When hypotension is precipitated, also reflex tachycardia will be seen. Okay, because we have seen that when BP lowers, your heart rate tends to increase to adjust your blood pressure. So more heart rate meaning it will start rising the BP. So it will try to adjust by producing the reflex tachycardia. So this is also seen in certain individuals. Then in higher doses, chlorpromazine has a direct depressant action on your heart. Okay, and also it produces the QT interval prolongation, suppression of the T wave. So these are all the signs and symptoms of arrhythmias. Okay, so arrhythmias can be precipitated in overdose, okay, especially with thioredoxin. Okay. Certain drug, okay, that is your CPZ, we have seen that it has membrane stabilizing property. So because of this, it also has anti-arrhythmic action also, because we have seen the same mechanism is also involved in the anti-arrhythmic action also. So CPZ also has anti-arrhythmic action. For the same reason, it is also having local anesthetic property also. Okay, but at higher doses, it can precipitate the arrhythmias. The next action is on the skeletal muscles. Okay, as such, these antipsychotics do not produce any direct effect on your muscle fibers, nor they affect the neuromuscular transmission. Okay, that is, NMJ is not basically affected, or direct action on the muscle fiber is also not seen. Okay, but they can reduce certain types of spasticity. Spasticity, you all know that it is a skeletal muscle disorder wherein there is stiffening of your muscles. Okay, so to certain extent, this condition can be controlled by these antipsychotics, but the site of action is not directly at your muscles or at the neuromuscular junction. Okay, but the site of action over here is basal ganglia or medulla oblongata. That's where exactly it is acting, and that's how it can relieve the spasticity. Spinal reflexes are not at all affected by antipsychotic. They will be maintained. The next effect on the endocrine system. Okay. So neuroleptics, the first action is they can increase the prolactin release. Okay, now prolactin is a hormone which is produced by pituitary lactotrophs. You are already aware of. Now, why there is increase in this prolactin release? The reason behind this is dopamine. Okay, dopamine actually has an inhibitory action on this pituitary lactotroph. That is, dopamine, it inhibits the release of prolactin from the pituitary lactotrophs. Okay, now what neuroleptic drugs are doing, we have seen under the mechanism of action. What is the mechanism of action? They block the dopaminergic receptors. Okay, D2 receptors are blocked. So they are blocking the action of your dopamine. Okay, so that's how opposite action is produced. Actually, dopamine inhibits the release of prolactin from the lactotrophs of your pituitary gland. But since neuroleptics are blocking the dopamine D2 receptor, they will have the opposite action. That inhibitory action is blocked, so they will result in increase in the prolactin release. So as a result of this, there will be galactorrhea, that is disproportionately high amount of milk will be produced. Okay, and gynecomastia, that is enlargement of the breast in the males. Okay, so these are the two conditions which will be precipitated by prolactin, because prolactin, we know that is a hormone which is associated with lactation. Generally, the release increases after the childbirth. Okay, but here these neuroleptics also are producing increase in the prolactin release, so they will precipitate these side effects. Okay, apart from that, antipsychotics also reduce the gonadotropin secretion. Okay, gonadotropins are your FSH, LH, okay, which are main hormones which are controlling the menstrual cycle in the females. So because of reduction in these gonadotropin secretion, amenorrhea or infertility may be produced, okay, in certain females. Amenorrhea is absence of menses. Okay, that is the periods in the females. Okay, that won't take place because of reduction in the gonadotropin level, and sometimes infertility also may be produced, but this may occur only occasionally. This is not a quite common side effect which is produced. Apart from that, another effect on endocrine system is ACTH release. Okay, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone. Okay, generally it is released in response to stress. Whenever there is any stressful condition, ACTH is released. Okay, so your corticoids are released. Okay, so they will produce several effects which will help you to combat this stressful condition. So what happens under antipsychotic effect is ACTH release in response to this stress is diminished. Okay, so even under stressful condition, ACTH levels will not be increased, or it will not be released. So because of this, corticosteroid levels will fail to increase under such situation, that is stressful condition. So whatever changes which are taking place during the stress, such kind of changes will not take place under the influence of antipsychotic drug. Another effect is release of GH, that is growth hormone. This is also reduced. However, this reduction in growth hormone is not sufficient to produce the growth retardation in small children. Generally, this is very important. If there is reduction in the growth hormone release, then there will be retardation in the growth. Okay, so dwarfism and all such kind of conditions may be precipitated. But actually, this reduction in growth hormone is not sufficient to retard the growth in small children. Or even this decrease is not even significant to be beneficial in acromegaly. Acromegaly meaning there is increase in the body size, right? Excessive growth. So this decrease in, though it is producing decrease in the growth hormone release, still it is not sufficient to treat this condition also, acromegaly. So it is minor change which is taking place in the growth hormone. Another effect is ADH release. Okay. So there is a decrease in release of antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone, what it does to your urine output? It decreases the urine output. That's what we have seen. Okay. So though this ADH, it decreases the urine output. So what antipsychotic drugs are doing? They are decreasing the release of this ADH. So your urine output will increase. there is an increase in urine output because the levels of ADH are decreased by antipsychotic. Not only this, these antipsychotic also have direct action on the kidney tubules also. That's how they are causing an increase in the urine output or urine volume. Okay, but sodium excretion is not affected. Okay, so water levels are getting changed. Okay, water excretion is increased. Nothing is happening to your sodium excretion. That is maintained normal. Okay, then as such, these antipsychotics do not affect the blood glucose level. Okay, but they can impair the glucose tolerance or aggravate the diabetes. Okay, there may be increase in the blood glucose level. Rather, they are showing intolerance to the glucose levels. Okay, so they can aggravate this condition, diabetes, and also they can elevate the serum triglyceride levels also. So these are all the metabolic changes which may take place because of the influence on the endocrine system. Then coming to the tolerance and the dependence. Okay, as we have seen earlier that tolerance can develop to sedative and hypotensive action. That's what we have seen under the actions, right? In the CNS, we have seen that initially they will have sedative properties, sedation will be produced, but slowly as you continue the treatment, tolerance will be developed. That is, sedation will go off. They will no longer produce sedative action. So also same is the case with hypotension. Postural hypotension is shown initially, but as you continue the treatment, this action is also waned off. That is, tolerance will be developed to both these actions as you continue the treatment for few days or few weeks. Okay. But the antipsychotic action we have seen, they do not develop any tolerance, right? Even the extrapyramidal side effects. Okay, so all those actions which are dependent on the dopamine receptor blockage, they do not show any kind of tolerance. Okay, so that shows that all these effects are due to some other facet of action. Okay, hypotensive action, we know that it's because of the action on your sympathetic system. Okay, so that's how tolerance is developed only to these two actions, not to antipsychotic or extrapyramidal side effects which are dependent on the D2 receptor blockage. Okay, then neuroleptics are hedonically bland drugs. Okay, that is, they do not produce any pleasurable effect. Okay, they are bland drugs. That means even if the person, normal individual, even if he consumes, they will not derive any euphoria or sense of well-being. It does not produce. Okay, so there is no drug-seeking behavior. That is, there is no psychological dependence which can be developed even if you take this drug repeatedly. There is no dependence liability or abuse liability with this drug. Even physical dependence is also absent with this drug. Only few withdrawal symptoms may be produced. Okay, that too is also less likely to be produced upon prolonged use. If you suddenly discontinue, okay, withdrawal phenomenon may be produced. Okay, but physical dependence is not shown by these drugs. And coming to the pharmacokinetics, oral absorption of the CPZ is unpredictable. Bioavailability is also low, so you cannot give this drug by oral route. IV or IM route is preferred, so that it will produce more consistent effect when it is given by parenteral route. Then once into your systemic circulation, it is highly bound to the plasma as well as tissue proteins. Okay, so plasma protein binding is very high. Okay, and also the tissue binding. Okay, so it also binds to the proteins in the tissues. So once it enters into your tissues from the blood, over there also it will start binding to the proteins, tissue proteins. Okay, so if you can see the brain concentration, it is higher than that of plasma. So what will happen, once the drug is in your systemic circulation, it will start entering into your tissues and it will remain bound over there. Okay, so volume of distribution of this drug is very much high. That's because your plasma concentration in the formula, you all have already studied this. In the formula, the plasma concentration is in the denominator. Okay, so since your plasma concentration will be lower, okay, volume of distribution is high of this particular agent. Then the metabolism, it mainly takes place in the liver, and this is the enzyme. CYP2D6 is the main enzyme involved in metabolism of the CPZ. and some of the metabolites which are generated are probably active. Then coming to their duration of action, the action generally lasts for 6 to 8 hours, and the elimination T half-life, which you can see, is variable, 18 to 30 hours. So it varies, it does not remain constant or same, it is quite variable. Okay, person to person it may show the variation. And also if you continue the treatment, the drug accumulates. Okay, upon chronic administration, we have seen that the drug quickly gets distributed and remain bound to the tissues. So what will happen when you continue the treatment over a period of time, it will start accumulating in your body, so that later on even single daily dose is also sufficient, because already there is lot of drug in your body which has remained bound into your tissues. Okay, and the metabolites, these are excreted mainly in the urine and the bile. Okay, and if you can see, even after discontinuation, these metabolites will be detected in urine and bile even for several months after discontinuation. That's because the drug is cumulative in nature, it will accumulate in your body tissues. So slowly it will start eliminating. So once you stop the treatment, your blood does not have any of your drug, but your tissues have. So slowly your drug will start coming out from your tissues, and it will be metabolized and it will be released. So that's how it is seen, the metabolites are seen in your urine and bile even after several months after the discontinuation.